in a playlist called Intro to Research Methods in Psychology, starting off pretty basic with what is science. What we will cover in this video includes the varying ways you can acquire information, starting at the very bottom of this list, which is tradition, and making our way up to science. And then we will briefly cover early attempts as well, such as behaviorism and structuralism. Starting off with tradition at the very bottom of this list sort of follows the guise of it's always been that way. So for example, with birthdays, right? They occur annually. You don't really give much thought to it. You're just like, well, it's always been done this way, so I guess I'll celebrate my birthday, right? Then we have authority. This could just follows the idea that, hey, this authority figure says it's true, so it's probably true, right? Good examples of this include your parents, maybe your boss. They're telling you, hey, this is right, this is correct. And oftentimes you just take their word for it, right? And then a subcategory of this includes scientific authorities. However, these are different in a way because there are safeguards put in place for scientific research, right? In terms of how it's documented, as well as the peer review process to ensure that the information provided by them is accurate, right? Moving up, we have intuition, which kind of just follows the idea that, hey, this just feels correct. It's sort of that gut feeling. In this little cat example, we have a cat who believes that the other cat is lying to them. Oh no. Even though there might not be a logical reason as to why they feel this way, it's sort of that intuition that's telling them, hey, I still feel like this cat is lying to me. Then moving up, a little higher up, we have rationalism, which just follows the idea that, hey, this makes logical sense. So here we have a small example. Let's just say, hey, cat, this is an example of an animal, right? And we know that animals need food for their survival. So therefore, we can logically infer that, hey, all cats need food for their survival, right? It makes logical sense. Then we have empiricism. So this is basically when knowledge is acquired from both experience and observation. So in this silly cat example again, we have a cat using a stinkometer, not a real tool, but for measurement tools also, as a side note, we have to make sure they're valid, reliable, which just means they are able to actually measure what they're supposed to measure, and it's consistent throughout it's very consistent every time, right? And this cat is trying to determine how stinky you are, let's say, and it determines that, hey, you're pretty high up there on the stinkometer. So this is coming from his experience. He's using the measurement tool to observe, and that sort of puts two and two together, and that's just a simple example of how empiricism works. And then we have science, which is all the way at the top. It's sort of a combination of both rationalism and empiricism. So basically, just makes logical sense, and you have the systematic observations that are able to back it up. Once again, another simple example. Let's just say Mr. Cat over here has a hypothesis. He thinks more sleep improves memory, right? So he goes ahead and tests it out. A cat gets more sleep. He provides them with a memory test, and then the results show that, hey, sleeping more has helped with memory. So that is put simply. And then we have two early attempts, starting off with behaviorism, which focuses more on observable behaviors rather than the mental processes. And here are a few prominent figures that you may have heard of if you've ever taken an AP psychology course, but to go through them briefly, we have John B. Watson, who was popular for the little Albert experiment, Ivan Pavlov, which probably rings a bell, with his classical conditioning, and then B.F. Skinner with operant conditioning. Then structuralism, It more focuses on breaking it down to conscious experiences and into its most basic elements. So we have Wilhelm Wundt, who actually was the guy who created the first psychology laboratory, and then also had his own thing with introspection. And then we have Edward B. Titchener, which was one of Wundt's students, and he was the guy who actually coined the term structuralism. Thanks for watching this video. Hope it was useful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thank you for watching.